Thank you, Ephraim. Ephraim, ambassadors, members of the diplomatic community, speakers at the conference, members of the academic community, ladies and gentlemen. B'nai B'rith is pleased to be able to partner with the Bessa Center in presenting this conference on strategic issues in the Mediterranean. In the more or less 2 years, as Ephraim said, since I discussed this idea with him, the situation in the region has deteriorated even further. And possible solutions to stemming that tide seem far out of reach. Given that, some countries in the region are taking matters into their own hands, looking to forge joint efforts to stabilize the regional environment. Some thoughts on the theme of this conference. The signal sent by the leaders of Israel, Greece, and Cyprus when they signed a joint cooperation declaration last month was unmistakable. The meeting has historic implications, Prime Minister Netanyahu said. The last time Greeks, Cypriots, and Jews sat around a table and talked on a common framework was 2,000 years ago. The Trilateral Declaration pledges closer cooperation in 7 different fields. And meanwhile, the 3 countries are forming a joint committee to examine the possibilities of laying a gas pipeline from Israel to Cyprus and exporting gas further into Europe. They're also working on creating underwater cables to connect their respective electricity grids. So how does one account for this dramatic breakthrough? Certainly, the rise of Israel's technology sector has had a lot to do with it. Israel's startup industry, with strong backing from local venture capital and the support of the government of Israel, has increasingly enabled Israeli companies to become global players in the world's tech market. But clearly, changes in the region since the Arab Spring have played a role as well. Shifting dynamics in the Mediterranean have prompted new alliances, new consensus, such as the one between Israel, Cyprus, and Greece, as well as other relationships that operate on various levels of openness, given obvious international political barriers, but are nonetheless significant. The tripartite summit comes against the backdrop of chaos and uncertainty that is roiling the region. The list of challenges and threats is lengthening. ISIS and a coterie of Islamic radical and terrorist organizations, the breakup of Syria and Iraq, the problems in Sinai and Yemen, and the ongoing presence and continuing militarization of Hezbollah and Hamas. And then there is the growing Russia factor. And casting a shadow over all of this is the re-entry of Iran into the international community, flush with cash as a result of the nuclear agreement, and which surely will increase efforts to advance its interests and its hegemonistic aspirations in the region. So in the absence of clear international initiatives to stem the tide of this instability, it is worth emphasizing that the joint declaration of Israel, Greece, and Cyprus stressed that the new trilateral cooperation is not exclusive and could very well come to include other countries with similar goals. Egypt, and even Turkey, a country that looms over any discussion involving these 3 governments, could figure prominently in this equation. Egypt already plays an important and growing role in the region, which could extend to the more formal structures now under discussion. But even as Israel signed this declaration, both Israel and Turkey signal that efforts are underway to normalize their relationship. Turkey has an immediate need. Its classic no problems foreign policy with its neighbors has become exactly the opposite. And its recalibrations could be well felt here and beyond in the coming months, especially with regard to the gas issue. But however the Turkish issue develops, were Israel, Greece, and Cyprus to transport gas by pipeline or in liquefied form by ship to Europe, it could plug the eastern Mediterranean into Europe's grid and provide an alternative energy source to Russia. The military and security parameters of the new alliance are still taking shape as well, as Defense Minister Ya'alon paid an official visit to Athens as the declaration was being finalized. This follows a pattern of joint air force and naval maneuvers and other cooperation between Israel and Greece over the past 2 years. The 3 countries all have sound commercial, defense, and political reasons for closer cooperation. As well as attracting more visitors and investment, Cyprus and Greece hope that some of Israel's high-tech success will rub off on them and lift their ailing economies, while Israeli know-how in defense and migration, cybersecurity, and counterterrorism could strengthen their security. Israel hopes to sell its expertise in these areas as well as gain extra allies in a region where it still feels isolated, with Syria at war on its northeastern border, Lebanon's Hezbollah a threat, and the situation with the Palestinians at an impasse. What additional factors are driving these vitally important developments? What do Israel's emerging relationships mean for the stability of the region, for the peace process, for the Cyprus issue? What will Europe's reaction be, or Russia's? Over the next 2 days, we'll have a chance to discuss these and other timely questions with a lineup of highly distinguished government officials, diplomats, and experts from across Israel, Europe, and the United States. They will bring insightful perspectives to the range of issues and challenges increasingly shared by all countries that have a direct interest in bolstering security and the future of the region. Thank you.